Hello, Math 2 students. Mr. Pratt here with a video tutorial about the drawing tools within AutoCAD. So this is going to be one of two videos available to you on Schoology as an assistance as you begin to draw the template for where you're going to cut your detail to line up your tray sides, your tray handle ends with the front and back side pieces of your serving tray. So you can see there's a difference between the overall width of these pieces. So we want to have a nice smooth transition there. So we're going to focus in on this drawing tool, drawing window, and I'm going to open up a new AutoCAD screen to get started here. So within this, just so you understand how AutoCAD works, strongly recommend that you use a mouse anytime that you're working in AutoCAD. If you want to zoom in and out, you can do so by just simply moving that wheel in the middle of your mouse. If you click the mouse, you can actually drag your entire screen by holding down that wheel in the middle of your mouse. If you left click, you can select something. Know that it's better to left click and move your cursor from right to left than it is to move it from left to right. And the reason I say that is because if for some reason you didn't select some part of a line or a part that you drew, and you scroll and you try to select that from left to right with this box, it's not going to select everything unless it's within that box that you just create with your mouse. But otherwise, if you do it with this green box, it'll actually select everything even if it's not perfectly selected within that box. And you'll get the hang of that once you start working in AutoCAD. So let's start with the simple tools like a line. A line tool is something that you're going to use often. I find myself using line tools not only to draw shapes, but also for reference points when I'm drawing other objects or other shapes within a drawing. So first thing it always says is specify first point. You don't necessarily have to specify first point. However, I will tell you that I always recommend that you start at that origin, XY origin, which would be 0, 0 as your if you're trying to draw this like on a graph paper or a grid. That's going to be, the 0, 0 is going to be that center point on that graph. So you probably experienced something like that in math class. So I'm going to just type in 0, and to move to the other window, you hit the tab button and hit 0 again. And if you hit enter, it's going to lock you in at that origin point. At this point, you could specify a certain angle, as you can see here. You can also specify the length of the line. You could go any direction you want. If you hold down shift, it'll lock you in on that vertical or horizontal axis. So it basically creates that 90-degree angle for you. So just some things to really think about there. I like to always draw straight lines using the shift key. You can also lock it in using the restrict cursor can't say the words today. If you're in ortho mode, by clicking F8 or the icon that's there at the bottom of the screen where my cursor is, it'll lock you in as well at that 90-degree angle. So a lot of different things that you can do here. Now I'm really zoomed out, as you can see, and it looks like I just got myself a little mixed up here. Let me move back to top view mode. There we go. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit and give myself a straight line to use. There we go. So that's how I would draw a line. And as you notice, when I draw, I can continue to draw a shape from that previous line. So if I wanted to, I could technically draw a box right here. And then coming back, you can see that. Now that's obviously not perfect. We would want to make sure that everything lines up. And you can see that by just moving your cursor around, you're going to get those coordinates or those points given to you through AutoCAD. So there's some things to work with within that program or within AutoCAD here. So a line tool, very simple yet very effective. You can tell the program how long you want the line to be. So if you knew exact dimensions, like I provide you on Schoology for the handle size, that's something else that you could do. So hopefully you understand how to use the line tool. Let me go back here for a second. If you notice, like I said, this wasn't perfect. It's not great to have the shape that I have here using the line tool. And honestly, it's not even the most efficient way of drawing a rectangle or any box. There's a tool for that called the rectangle tool. There are two options. If you actually click on that drop down, you can draw polygons as well with this feature. I'm going to stick with just the rectangle tool today. And the reason I'm doing this is because if you think about your serving trays and the pieces that you're going to be creating a template for, you're basically creating a box with some more complex shape in the middle of it. But really, your job is going to be focusing on what that curvature might look like for the ends of your handle. So going back to my other window here, the rectangle tool, if you click on it, you can see that it says specify first corner point. This is very similar to the line tool. So again, I always use the origin, the XY origin to get started. So 0, tab 0, and hit enter. And that locks in my first corner, which is going to be that bottom left or bottom right, depending on how you look at, or top left or top right. So definitely something to think about there. I usually tend to work over to the right side of my screen here as I move the cursor. And you can see that the top box is going to coordinate with the length of your rectangle, and the side one on the side is going to be the width of your rectangle. And if we were to look back at our other drawing, it would tell us the exact size of what this is supposed to be, which is 11 by 4. So if I go back in here again, I can specify my first corner, 0, tab 0, and I can put in 11 tab to lock that in. So TAB, the button on the keyboard there. And then I can type in 4 and hit enter. AutoCAD is by default in inches, so everything that you're doing in here is going to automatically go into that dimension. So here I have the end of my handle. Now I could go ahead and put in some extra features. I could use the line tool, give me some idea as to where I might want to place some of my lines, or some of the shapes, or some of the the arcs or things that I might include in my drawing. So another helpful tool to help you is going to be the circle tool. There's a lot of different various circles that you can use within AutoCAD. I tend to use radius, diameter to begin, but then I sometimes get into more complex shapes, and I might use what's called a tan radius circle, where you're actually going to have two parts of that circle tangent to two lines or 2 points, and then the radius is what you're going to specify that to be, the size of the circle. Another option would be tan, which is where the circle would be tangent to 3 objects or 3 points or 3 lines, depending on what you're using it for. So a lot of options here. When it comes to radius, just know that if you were looking to actually create a circle with a certain diameter, and you give the diameter as the radius, it's going to double that then. So just make sure that you know what the number is supposed to be versus accidentally putting in the wrong thing. So you can see how I just simply clicked on the point or the corner of that rectangle there, and if I drag the mouse, I can stop anywhere and left click, and I would lock in the number, or I could type in an official number and say, hey, this is what I want, and hit enter, and it's going to keep that for me. So let's say 3 inches. There it is. There's my circle. Obviously, that's probably not something that you want for your drawing, but just something good to know of how that's used. Again, the diameter tool is going to be very similar to that. The only difference is you're typing in the diameter instead of the radius. So let's talk about that tan radius. I think this is a very cool circle tool in order to help you kind of with your project. So maybe I just want to have the circle tangent. I want to do an arc here, and I want the circle to be tangent to this line and this line where my cursor is. And if I click on that option under tan radius, you'll notice that when I come up to like a point or a line or any object, it creates a tangent mark, and it's a circle with a line that goes above it. and that's just simply the icon for tangent. So if I left click, it's going to identify that tangent mark there. And then if I left click again on the other line that I want to have this circle tangent to, it now knows that there's two tangent areas, and then I specify the radius. So I could do that 3-inch radius, or I could do something smaller like 1 inch. And you can see how that's going to change my shape here. Okay, I could delete some extra parts of this object, which we'll talk about in the modify section of our video tutorials. But this is definitely an option for you. Maybe you want to just use the tan circle. You can do so. Again, just simply left clicking on each object you want your circle to be tangent to. In this case, it would be 3 tangent points. And there you go. Now maybe you want a line that's tangent to a circle or another object. You can do that as well in this program. So if I click on that line tool, and I'll specify this is my first point, and I'm going to take this off ortho mode for a second. And if I type in the word tangent or tan, T-A-N, and hit enter, we're now telling AutoCAD that, hey, you need to find a tangent point for this line that I'm drawing. So I can see how that icon for tangent shows up now if I'm near an object. And there's several objects here that I could choose from for this tangent point. I'm going to use this one right here. If I left click, it locks that in. So you can see how that line is basically just in, along the edge of that circle there, creating a tangent point. So just another feature of the drawing options within the line tool. There are some other icons that you see here. One of them is going to be that arc tool. There's different types of arcs. I'm going to let you play around with this, and then of course I can work with you one-on-one if this is something that you would like to use. To be honest, my favorite option when it comes to drawing an arc is actually using the circle tool and then trimming or deleting as needed. So most of you probably had some experience with Onshape and you remember trimming. That's something that is also possible here in AutoCAD as well. And we'll talk more about that, like I said, in the modify video. Another icon or drawing option would be a ellipse, or what looks like an oval. You can do a center ellipse, or you can do one that's an axis end, where you actually click and you can see 3 different points there. Where this one you are specifying the center point, and then you can see different options. So if I click on this, I can see exactly how wide I made it, but then also how long am I going to make it. This would be a good feature, like if we wanted to change the handle on our like the actual opening where our hand is going to go. This would be something that we could have used for that. But just to make things simpler for you, we're going to have the same toolpaths created for the CNC, so you won't have to do that part. Okay, so these are just a couple of features of AutoCAD as far as getting started with drawing. Nothing complex here. This is just simple shapes that we can bring together to make something unique. Hopefully this helps as you begin working on your own templates for your service.